Hello, and welcome to the podcast. My name is Michael Yon, and today I am interviewing author Roman Harambura as Kuntarkis on his latest book called Entanglement, The Long Journey Home, Volume 2. This book, I am looking forward to buying a copy and indulging my whole self into it until I have finished reading it. So let's dive into another dimension of inner understanding. Roman as Kuntarkis, welcome to your interview. For my first question, can you please share to the audience of our podcast, as well as the reader of this book of interviews, the general contents? Also, could you give a reason to why you have called it Entanglement, The Long Journey Home, Volume 2?
Well, if you don't mind, I will answer the second question first, to the reason I call my new book Entanglement, The Long Journey Home. Just to explain, my first book was called Entrapment, published in late 2013. Just recently, I have removed it from the self-publishing marketing company completely. I have re-edited Entrapment and added some new material and renamed it Entrapment, The Pathway to Freedom, Volume 1. As well as doing up the new front and back cover. I am in the process in looking for a traditional publisher. I named my new book Entanglement, The Long Journey Home, Volume 2, which is also completed and ready for publishing. The reason is my observation of human society, meaning all the negative actions from lifetime to lifetime has created so much negativity within all of humanity. Now, the word entanglement has a very interesting terminologies, being tied up, can't breathe, completely confusion in life of life. Then this, a persistent, emotional fused attachment of a person losing one's sense of identity, or finding it completely difficult in making any decisions in their own life, always totally dependent on another or others in giving you or them the answers, or even giving away your complete outer and inner powers of self. Running seminars, workshops, and lectures showed me a book or two is in much need. That's why I created Volume 2, called Entanglement, The Long Journey Home. Just think on this for a moment. If a human has had 100 or even 1,000 incarnations on planet Earth, and no one teaches, then how does one deal or let go of all the self-created emotions, be it negative or positive? Those self-created emotions, be it negative or positive, are recorded within the human physical cellular memory as well as the spirit's cellular memory. And depending on one's experiences in a current physical life, can and does come up to the surface. And if we look at humanity's past, it has been so much more negative than positive. My book, Entanglement, The Long Journey Home, Volume 2, will help any individual free themselves from past self-created conditioning, as long as one has an open mind and an open heart and is willing to let go of the old.
Wow, that was well answered, especially to the word entanglement. That explains a lot about why you chose the name to your new book, Entanglement, The Long Journey Home. Okay, before you explain the contents of the book, I notice on each of your books you always put a quote or an affirmation on the front cover. Did you do it with this book, Entanglement, The Long Journey Home? If so, would you mind reading it, or naturally having it within this book for the people to read it for themselves?
Yes, of course, I can do that. Here goes. This following affirmation was created personally by me for this following book, called Entanglement, The Long Journey Home, Volume 2. Everything in life is a personal choice. What we each choose is governed by our thought process, which is based on our experiences through our self-conditioning and becomes our personal belief system. Created also from our parents' genetics, transfer, and social conditioning. We as humans need to ask ourselves this question: are we truly an individual, or simply a clone of our parents living out the characteristics of their own self-conditioning and their belief systems? We can choose imprisonment or freedom. The choice is always our personal decision, is it not?
I really like what you wrote. That affirmation says it all. Thank you. Okay, I will leave it to you to answer the contents question.
Okay, thank you, Michael. I will express the table of contents, how it is within the book, Entanglement, The Long Journey Home, Volume 2, mainly for the readers of this book that will have all my books within it. The layout will make it easier for the readers to see. Also, please note, at this point the book is completed but not published, so there are no page numbers. Table of Contents. Number 1, Introduction, Understanding the Trail. Number 2, Human Society, the good, the bad, the evil, the human logical ego within humanity. Number 3, Earth's monetary system, an overview, removing greed. Number 4, Human ego. Number 1, ego the creator. Number 2, the many faces of human ego, the masks. Number 3, competition. Number 4, vanity. Number 5, self-guilt and blame. Number 6, martyrs. Number 7, domination and control. Number 8, excuses. Number 9, opinions. Now we go to number 5, self-created fears. Where fear comes from. Fears and self-created fears, genetic link. The past affects the present and the future. Human emotions versus inner feelings. Human emotions, the great manipulator. Belief systems and self-conditioning. How all fears create our life. Now, number 6, self-revelation. Beginning of self-awareness. Number 7, self-responsibility. Why we give personal responsibility away. How do we give personal responsibility away? Being 100% personally responsible. The greater inner-outer pictures of life. Then we come to number 8, conditional love versus unconditional love. 1, conditional love / ego's idea of love. 2, unconditional love, a pure state of being. Number 3, the hurt child within. Number 4, creative visualization / meditation. Number 5, unconditional love, a pure way of life. Then we come to number 9, self-created human disease. 1, who created disease and why? Number 2, human diseases and emotions. Number 3, back to beliefs / conditioning. Then we come to number 10, the inner gift to healing. 1, healing with the light. 2, technicalities of spiritual healing. 3, cleansing and protection. 4, opening the inner channel. 5, channeling the light. 6, hands-on healing. 7, absent healing. 8, closing down. Then we come to number 11, truth or illusion. 1, human ego's idea of truth. 2, where to find truth. 3, living the truth. Then we come to chapter 12, bonus workbook, creating your reality through self-realization. And I just have to explain that just for a sec. That topic, creating your reality through self-realization, was a seminar, which was a one-day seminar that I presented many, many times. And the purpose of that was to get people to understand their inner self of self-conditioning. So they begin to self-realize that there is more to life and how we can create through reality, even through manifestation. Okay, now chapter 13, personal affirmations. I have set out a 90-day personal plan of affirmations. Now we come to chapter 14, conclusion, which is Entanglement, The Long Journey Home, Volume 2. And then we come to basically number 15, participants' comment page.
Okay. I like what you just expressed about the contents of your new book, Entanglement, The Long Journey Home, Volume 2. I feel from what you stated will be of benefit to anyone who not only buys the book, but also will answer so many questions about why their life is what it is, and as you've said many times, be it negative or positive. My next question, naturally your book will contain an introduction or preface. Would you also mind reading it or them to the people?
Absolutely, Michael. Yes, I can do it. It's an introduction of 4 pages. It is a little deep in how I wrote it. I wanted the introduction to formulate a deeper understanding in how I wrote and compiled this book. As this is a learning book far beyond to what we as humans are taught. We all have been highly conditioned into a certain way of thinking, mainly in a logical thinking process. Once the reader completes this book, they will, in most cases, look more carefully in how they see not only their own personal life, but others as well. So, here I go. Introduction: Understanding the Trail. Whilst an author claims any work to be their truth, I can honestly admit that this book, Entanglement, The Long Journey Home, Volume 2, is my heart truth. It must also be pointed out from the outset that this book is not meant to be the work of scientific or social research, and most certainly does not claim to be. How could anyone fill such an impossible criteria? My only purpose in this book is simply to express a point of view with the aim of encouraging the reader to open their heart, to open their mind, so it will allow an expansion of their own self-awareness by elevating their own individual consciousness, because consciousness is the beginning of opening one's imagination to the reality that everything is energy and energy is everything. In this book, Entanglement, The Long Journey Home, Volume 2, has always been my aim, my purpose, to reveal the reality of human nature in its raw state. That is, to strip back to the bare bone what we as human beings truly are, and how self-created conditioning from one lifetime to the next has created us into being so logical in our human thinking that we each have lost the ability to be free-thinking individuals. No doubt, this book will ignite a great deal of criticism from those who feel their carefully orchestrated and justified existences threatened. It will also generate interest from those who have the vision to accept, or at least to understand, the real picture which I am attempting to present. We as humans can only learn and grow when our belief systems and boundaries of existence are truly challenged. Therefore, I throw down the glove and challenge every human that reads this book to open their heart and mind to the impossible being possible. But first, the reader must put aside not only their logical human thinking, but especially their own self-created human ego. I challenge you to open your mind long enough to allow yourself to grow and progress forward, not only as a real human being, but to become aware that you are living energy, becoming living, self-aware consciousness to which all life belongs. The purpose of this book, Entanglement, The Long Journey Home, Volume 2, is to open a door for every human individual that reads it. That door holds the possibility of enlightenment and self-discovery through self-awareness. I do not guarantee enlightenment. In fact, no one can, not on this planet Earth or any other planet in any other universe. And it all depends on whether you as a human individual chooses to allow yourself to search beyond what you already know and understand. But if you do not allow yourself to open your mind and heart, there is no doubt in my mind that a new awareness of life and of your existence will begin to grow within you by emanating all around you. Know this: the human brain is not the mind. The human brain is a physical organ, just like any other organ within your human body, whereas the mind is a manifestation from living energy, which comes directly from your own soul. In no way do I expect any reader to adopt the insights within these pages as their truth. Rather, it is my aim to present life from a different perspective, which the reader can then use to observe, even study, by evaluating their own human life. That is to examine their opinions, their existence, especially their self-created human logical ego, eventually leading them to the discovery of their own inner truth, not someone else's, and thereby achieving true self-enlightenment. I am not attempting to present yet another philosophy on life, but rather my own inner and outer discoveries. As I have journeyed along the path that has become my life and my personal history, in itself, writing this book has been a continuing journey of self-discovery and self-enlightenment, more so self-empowerment to what is real and what is actual illusion. Enlightenment seems to be a word surrounded by misconception and misunderstandings, and not to be obtainable to the average human. It often seems attainable only by those who have dictated themselves to a purely spiritual existence. So, at this point, I must ask you, the reader, the question: what is spiritual? It certainly has nothing to do with any form of religion or any kind, because human man created all religions on this earth. Yes, I do primarily mean man, not woman. Therefore, the spirituality referred to in religion is bound by belief systems and bias conditions. True spirituality lies within the human individual and is found when the human logical ego is put aside and replaced with unconditional love and truthfulness towards oneself and others. Most human beings find it hard to be truthful, especially to themselves, and they find it even harder to love themselves unconditionally. Hence, enlightenment is obtained when truth and love is accepted and the broader picture taken in, not when our vision is focused on a minutely specific point which limits our insight and our understanding of any given situation. Self-created enlightenment is the understanding and acceptance that humanity, through its own human ego, has made life a game in which the largest ego wins. Enlightenment is found in touching one's inner being by putting everything into perspective, knowing that the only important goal in human life is to achieve inner peace. All wars throughout human history, being the past and competition, are all about human logical egos trying to prove themselves superior to their egos. Peace is about self-acceptance, self-love, and a deeper understanding of life itself, spilling over into our daily contact with other humans, especially living with heart, not the manipulative fears and negative emotions which are all created by our beliefs and our conditioning, which in the end becomes our ingrained belief systems. Self-discovery and enlightenment enables one to realize that the dramas of everyday life are insignificant. Humans have been hijacked by what is referred to as the elite criminals and have made life a trial and a chore for all of humanity and completely complicated at every turn. Drawing back long enough to see the reality of our present day or our lives will help us target specific areas in need of change, as most humans are too deeply involved in a negative situation to see the entire picture. We each need to become like the eagles, to raise ourselves far enough above the situation, enabling us to observe and to see clearly the totality of that situation from a new and detached perspective, without losing sight of compassion or wisdom. Through an active change in attitude and perspective, we each can regain the equilibrium and find the inner peace that is so lacking in our human world today. After all, we are what we think, as our thoughts are so powerful, they create our lives and our world. The power for change is within each of us, but it is a level of our thinking that often prevents the recognition of the necessity for change, as well as the implementation of such change. In our present life, we each need to realize that change can only occur on a global level when each of us takes up the challenge to face ourselves and commence the journey of self-discovery, thereby not only raising our individual consciousness, but also raising our collective consciousness as humanity. Life becomes simple when we actively progress inwardly to discover the real self, to resolve our hidden fears and negative emotions, to forgive the past, and to genuinely, unconditionally love ourselves and every living thing in existence. Just to simply forgive and stop blaming others as well as we as humans is an enormous achievement. It does not matter what you achieve externally, because without inner understanding, these external achievements have no real meaning, no value whatsoever. It would be far greater than any external achievement could ever be. Let's say if a human individual was willing just simply to recognize their own heart, which comes from within oneself, it may seem to be a small, insignificant internal achievement. Yet, in most situations, that can be the greatest achievement ever in one's present life. When we each strive only for what we can gain physically, we find we are mostly never satisfied, and we never really find what we have been looking for in the first place. When we each touch our inner being, everything falls into place. The fears and worries of yesterday have no real bearing on our existence, and we know that a resolution will be achieved. We begin to trust ourselves that there is an answer to any problem, trusting ourselves 100%. Enlightenment does not mean that we become lethargic, unproductive beings, devoid of energy and enthusiasm. Quite the opposite. We suddenly realize why we are striving and attempting to achieve. Making the attainment of that goal is more important. Yet at the same time, keeping our vision in perspective so as not to become overwhelmed by the tasks in front of us, not allowing our human egos to run away on a trip of self-glorification. The difference between productivity coupled with an enlightened mind as opposed to productivity driven by human ego is the motivation behind the activity and the achievement. It is 100% better to achieve a goal in a positive manner than achieving something in a negative manner. It is a difference between productiveness based on thoughtfulness and consideration, not productiveness based on fear and greed from one's own negative conditioning. It must be pointed out that at times this book Entanglement, The Long Journey Home, Volume 2, may sound a little negative. As the author, I make no excuses or apologies for the bluntness of my approach. Too many New Age books pussyfoot around, focusing only on being positive and trying ever so hard not to offend the reader or not to be too negative, lest the work be rejected. Instead of pointing out the necessity for recognizing the negativity and resolving it, it seems far easier to brush off all obvious negativity under the proverbial carpet and forget that it ever existed. Like all dirt and dust, ignored, negativity and unresolved conflict will rise to the surface with more intensity than ever before, demanding it be recognized and resolved. My intention is to shake up all humans enough to take recognition of what is going on around them in this world we all live in, and to look at what has created the dilemmas we are faced with. For example, pollution, mass poverty, environmental destruction, human diseases, terrorism, wars, extreme violence, global greed, political correctness, and censorship, which denies people freedom of speech and personal opinions. Censorship should not be necessary if human egos were not as prolific in human nature as they are presently. No one would make offensive comments, and no one would take offense at verbal observations if the human egos were not an active participant in the human life. Should you become offended by this book, understand that it is only your human ego which has taken offense. Approach this book with an open mind and an open heart, and you will find common sense and simplicity within its pages. If you attempt to read this book with any amount of ego, little benefit can be gained. In fact, you are wasting your time. Your eyes may be reading, but your human brain, your being, is not listening. Enlightenment is achieved through self-awareness. Keeping our eyes and ears shut to the blindly obvious reality all around us will not raise our self-awareness or conscious growth in any way whatsoever. Time and again, you will see references to human ego and its influences on our daily lives and behaviors. Do not think of human ego as a victim, but instead see yourself as the victim of human ego. It is important to read this book in its correct order from beginning to end, so that you grasp the context in which statements are made. We all have the habit of browsing and reading only certain passages that catch our attention. But to gain a full understanding of the messages contained within these pages, it is strongly advised that you do not skip any chapters or sections, or that you do not read the last chapter first or the first chapters last. Otherwise, you may find yourself feeling confused by what is being expressed. Read and reread this book as your awareness grows, and you will gain new understandings and truth. Every time you turn the pages, you can grow into a true human being who knows they have immense potential in whatever you choose to do with your human life. Or you can remain the same individual with the same conflict, fears, and emotions for your entire life, never moving outside of the boundaries you have built around yourself and passing your negative emotions and self-conditioning down to your children, who most likely will pass them down to their children. In the light of this, always remember, no one is ever a lost cause, because there is always a choice, and the choice is yours alone. It is never too late for change. Simplicity of life is obtained in life when we become aware of how the game of life is played by the human egos of our world. And enlightenment is achieved when the awareness of truth is accepted and acted upon accordingly. The purpose of self-enlightenment and self-awareness are in the raising of one's own personal consciousness. Without greater awareness or a deeper understanding, how can we obtain a broader vision and perspective of our existence? Our entire species is at this point where we must do something fast, but it cannot be done by some humans and not others. The attitude of letting someone else fix it is totally unacceptable, considering the current global situation. We may like to think that problems can be resolved by the external intervention of other humans, or that they will simply go away if we ignore them. But we all know this is not the case. Humanity only resolves its conflict when each of us as individuals deal with our unresolved self-created emotions and fears. Until then, however, it seems we will continue to be the race of beings who resolve around mass wars, manipulation, domination, greed, and destruction. It is time humanity stops making excuses for its behavior and take responsibility for the misery and destruction it has created and is continuing to create on a global scale. And yes, 100% created by the elite criminals classed as the CPCs, which means cannibalistic pedophile criminals who totally run the human world. Why, may you ask? Total domination and total greed, as well as depopulation of around 90% of the human species to come. Everyone must take personal responsibility for their own self-created experiences and actions, be it negative or positive, and to see how they contribute to the continuing ignorance and destruction of our world called planet Earth, both physically and emotionally. We as a species called human cannot even help others if we cannot help ourselves first. We need to resolve issues in our own existence and forgive those we blame for the life we presently have or have experienced in the past before we can even consider involving ourselves in helping others. Unresolved personal emotion will undeniably get in the way of rational and reasonable thinking or even counseling. Only when we each understand ourselves first will we then understand others and be able to help them. Letting go of our own self-created fears allows each of us to open our hearts and welcome unconditional love into our existence. It is in finding and expressing unconditional love that the virtues of truth, compassion, wisdom, and understanding can be nurtured. This book, Entanglement, The Long Journey Home, Volume 2, is a vehicle for my own expressions and my understanding of inner truth. Self-awareness is my message. Enlightenment is my aim and purpose. Universal unconditional love is my ultimate goal for all of humanity. Why, you may ask? Because of the love I feel for all humanity. Back to you, Michael.
My God, that is some introduction. A question just came into my head about your first book, Entrapment. I realize you have taken the book off the marketplace, being internet stores as well as some physical stores, because you have re-edited the book as well as renaming it and calling it Entrapment, The Pathway to Freedom, Volume 1. Now you have completed another book called Entanglement, The Long Journey Home, Volume 2. What is the main reason for Volume 2?
Yes, that's a good question, Michael. What I have decided to do, as you stated above, is re-edit the old Entrapment as well as renaming it, as well as a new front cover and back cover. The old Entrapment book was published, as I said before, in 2013 originally, based totally on all the seminars I presented over many years. The book is now called Entrapment, The Pathway to Freedom, Volume 1, and is ready for publishing, as stated. The reason I added Volume 1 on the front cover is because I have now completed Volume 2, called Entanglement, The Long Journey Home, which covers many new topics, and it is more in depth to Volume 1. I made a sudden decision with Volume 2. I've now added Volume 1 within that book also, so that people have a choice to purchase. They can purchase Entrapment, The Pathway to Freedom, Volume 1, which is naturally smaller when it comes to pages, around 160. There are more in-depth topics within Entanglement, The Long Journey Home, Volume 2, which has also a bonus personal workbook called Creating Your Reality Through Self-Realization. And as I stated above, I used to run seminars called Creating Your Reality Through Self-Realization. So people have the choice when it comes to purchasing either Volume 1 or Volume 2, or both.
Well, I've read the first book called Entrapment when it first came out back in 2013, and I've also been to some of your seminars, even your workshops in the past. That book, Entrapment, is certainly worth buying. What it explains is just incredible. I have a question with Entanglement, The Long Journey Home, Volume 2. Roughly how many pages is that book?
Well, I've printed the book out and it is 230 pages. But when it goes to a traditional publisher and they relay the book out to suit their way of doing things, that book could be increased like it did in the original, The Book of Knowledge, I'm Alien. It was originally 763 pages. When they completed the book and printed it and sent it to me, it was 1,105 pages. So it's all to do with the layout. So it's through the publishing process. It could be more, mainly due to the layout.
I see. With the book Entanglement, The Long Journey Home, Volume 2, have you worked out the front cover? Like, meaning, is it just going to have a heading and the affirmation, or maybe some form of image or photo?
Well, at present, I have created it with the name of the book in large letters, and below is the affirmation. To be truly honest, I may leave it until it gets into a traditional publisher's hand because they have the expertise when it comes to creating not just the book layout, but the front and back cover, because they know it's great for marketing. I did have a vision in my mind when I was creating my book. I was seeing all this razor wire with some people caught up within it, like trying to unravel it. It would be the background with the writing all over it.
Yes, I can see that. That would look very interesting. Like the razor wire is preventing them from moving forward. Like they are kept in their past, not being able to move beyond it. Hey.
Exactly. Our world with humanity as the population are in reality being highly conditioned into thinking a certain way. This is what the elite criminals are doing. They are literally doing it right in front of us. And most of us cannot understand that. And what they want is for us as humanity to live in complete fear. So they become the government of any country. The government basically creates negative laws of control for total domination of their own societies. That causes most of humanity to become stressful in their life, which causes depression. And parents, in most cases, do not realize they are passing that stress through genetic transfer of their own DNA onto their own children or future children. And so it goes through every generation, lifetime after lifetime, and over time becomes one's own belief system, that conditioning through brainwashing. And it is 100% happening all over the world.
That is so scary. I don't have any children, but I do feel the pain to what is happening within humanity, and it's so wrong. The governments don't want to admit anything that the elite criminals are and have been doing to millions of children worldwide for a very long time. So far, you have written 3 non-fiction books. Correct me if I'm wrong. The first book was Entrapment, that you published in the late 2013. Now you have told me it has been withdrawn from the marketplace and you have reformulated it and it is ready for publishing, and you've called it Entrapment, The Pathway to Freedom, Volume 1. Is that correct in what I just said?
Yes, Michael, 100% true.
Okay, then you wrote a book called The Book of Knowledge, I Am Alien, based on the monthly stories you put up on your old website, which gave a new insight into past and present knowledge, as well as hundreds of questions and answers from people all around the world, including, I believe, around 80 affirmations for people to use, which can help them in their daily lives. The book ended up 1,105 pages. That's one hell of a thick book. Is that also correct?
That is also correct, Michael, yes.
Then you were inspired to write a new volume called Entanglement, The Long Journey Home, Volume 2, also being a non-fiction book and based on your teachings, with lots of extras from what this interview is about. What encouraged you to write this book?
Well, for the last 56 years of my human existence, that is being within the human body that has reached the tender age of 75, which I do not ever believe in age, and I never have. We are all ageless, timeless, and endless. But humanity has been highly conditioned to growing old in human time. And the foods we consume make humanity grow older faster. 100%. I have always had the most extreme, yet the most fascinating visions within my dream state. And yes, especially on my books, be it nonfiction or what is classed as fiction. More to the point, the books that are classed as fiction, I have always placed the statement of fiction, but with a strong touch of actual reality. Meaning, in truth, all my books are actually non-fiction. It's the inner knowledge that is within all my books, and the so-called fiction books are written for adventure, entertainment, and whatever else. So it was my inner journey of knowledge that helped me create Entanglement, The Long Journey Home, Volume 2.
Okay, I like that. Thank you. But you also wrote books on fiction called The Dream Assassin Volume 1. That has been published in 2019, which included all the dialogue of around 90 characters, which to me is a lot, and a storyline throughout the book. Even an in-depth description of the whole book is around 700 pages, with all the different stories within it. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. Actually, I loved writing that book. So inspiring to me personally. I even lived out all the characters that I created in manifestation. That is within that book.
Okay. Then you ventured onto another book called The Dream Assassin Volume 2, which you have told me is ready for publication and also has separate stories within it, and basically written similar to Volume 1. My questions are: 1, how many pages will Volume 2 have? 2, how many stories will it have compared to Volume 1? 3, are they based on different characters that is within each story? And could you give a brief answer on each question?
Yes, I can do that. Your first question, The Dream Assassin Volume 2, will have 550 pages, but also depending on the publisher's layout. Your second question, it will have 5 separate stories within Volume 2, as Volume 1 has 7 stories. Your third question, yes, each story is based on different characters due to the type of story, but the main characters are right throughout Volume 2, just like Volume 1.
That's great. This new book you have written called The World Conspiracy Volume 1, I don't know much about it, only from what you have told me. Is it based on being referred to as fiction book? Is that true?
Yes, it is.
Is that book finished?
Yes, it's ready for publication.
Just a brief answer to my question. What inspired you to write the book The World Conspiracy?
Well, back in 1979, I had a dream experience that was as real as human life. Yes, it was an experience that was within what is referred to as the fourth dimension, being within spirit world. That following morning, I remembered the entire experience and I ended up writing it as a film script, which, by the way, I have never done that before in this current life as a human being. It took me 3 to 4 months to complete it. Then I said to myself, what am I doing with it? Without going too deep about it, I did find a way of approaching Warner Brothers in Sydney. They loved the contents, but a few weeks later contacted me by explaining it was like one of the James Bond movies. The cost factor would be far too great in Australia, and left it at that. I lost interest and put it into a cupboard for many, many years. Then I came across it. So many years later, I decided to write it as a novel, but with full dialogue, description, and storyline. So it is finished and waiting for me to find the right literary agent as well as traditional publisher. More so, maybe, in America. And that's that, Michael.
Wow, that's inspiring. So, will the book be just The World Conspiracy Volume 1?
Well, as I was writing it, I did get the feeling there would be a completely different storyline if I decided to write volume 2. So At this time, the answer could be yes to The World Conspiracy Volume 2, as I've already written the introduction on what is about and is hugely heavy to what will take place with the ones called the elite criminals being what I call the CPCs. When we do the podcast episode on it, I will explain it in so much more depth.
Sounds great. That we shall do. This concludes the interview on Roman as Kuntarkis' book called Entanglement, The Long Journey Home, Volume 2. Once the book is published, it can be purchased on most internet stores and, I believe, some physical retail stores. Please check out Roman as Kuntarkis' current website, etcconsciousness.com, for his latest books and lots of other information. You can also purchase his books directly from him. Just email kuntarkis@gmail.com. He also personally signs his books that are purchased from him and writes a small message on them. Also, check out our podcast, kuntarkis.buzzsprout.com, and please have a listen to over 167 episodes, or in the near future, you'll be able to buy this book that has his interviews by me, Michael Yon, on his 6 books that explains so much in so many different ways. Stay tuned for the next interview on author Roman Harambura as Kuntarkis on his new book called The World Conspiracy, Volume 1.